Alright, new player's guide to English. So we're going to do the simplest, new player friendliest build to get you started with English in Age of Empires 4. I'm going to quickly cover how to do it, and then in a second video go into a bit more depth and explain why we're doing the things we're doing, as well as a little bit about what to think about, areas to focus on, that kind of thing, with the build, as well as learning the game more generally. There's also a link to the written build order in the description if you like that for your reference. But let's jump into it then. Alright, so to start the game, you're going to make a villager out, or queue up a villager out of your TC. You're going to move all your villagers onto food, and you're going to send your scout across the map to go scouting. I'm not going to worry too much about the scout. We're just going to worry about what we're going to do on our base mostly, build up an army and attack. So this build order is going to be about a bit of feudal aggression. So your first two villagers are going to go onto gold, and you're going to leave them there forever. So the first one's going to make a mining camp, and the second one's going to come across. At some point before you get pop caps, so before this is 10 out of 10, luckily it gives you a bit of a color indication. You want to make a house with one of your food villages, and then put them back onto food. So yeah, the goal of this build is to build an army in Feudal Age of longbows and spearmen, and then to go attack. So the gist of it is, this isn't optimal, it's as basic, as simple as possible, but it will allow you as a new player to find your feet in any match, against any serve, on any map, pretty much. And then you can sort of play around from there. So we're rallying back on food now that we've got our 2 on gold. And once you find your feet, then you can try different things. But at least you haven't got your shit pushed in the first few minutes, and have a terrible new player experience. But yeah, so it's not optimal, but it's gonna give you a good foundation for a new player going online, and yeah, like I say, finding your feet. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit until we age up. So once we get 400 food, 200 gold, we can build our landmark, which we're going to go with the council hall. We're going to make that with 3 of our food villages, just sort of somewhere in our base, not that important. And then we are going to do a little bit of re-macro. So 3 of our food villages go to make the council hall. Then we want to leave just 6 villages on food. So the remaining, which I think, yeah, it's probably going to be about 2, you're going to put onto wood. So making a lumber camp and on wood. And we're going to rally directly onto wood until we get up to 11. Now there's nothing to do until we age up. So skipping ahead. Bringing the sheep back, which is lovely. We're going to need, once these sheep are done, we're going to need to go on berries, but you just do that as needed, depending on how many sheep you get. See, we've got another house there. As this goes orange, and we know we need to make another house. I just use the wood villages to make houses. Doesn't really matter. And then once these guys are done, 2 of them are going to go back to wood, and then 1 of them is going to make a barrack. So like I said, we're going to make longbows and spearmen. Particularly in this game, we're against French, who have feudal knights. But most civs are going to make cavalry against English, so you're going to want at least some spearmen. How many you need is going to depend on the game, and I'll leave that up to you to decide and figure out as you play. But basically, once we've got this up, our production cycle, and we're making longbows when we can, by the way, our production cycle is basically going to be as simple as we always make villages, and then we want as many spearmen as we're going to need for defensive purposes, and then longbowmen for our damage and to do our attacks. So this is basically it for now. We're just going to be producing these and building up an army, and once we have enough, we can go attack. So we're actually going to build up to 40 supply down here, and it's going to be our initial indication for a good time to go out. Gives us enough spearmen and enough longbows to do some damage. We're building another house here. And soon enough, once we float a little bit of wood here, as we can't make that many longbows, we're actually going to make a blacksmith, which is going to allow us to get our ranged upgrades, which is a really important part of playing with longbows in English. Is you want your ranged attack upgrade and you want your ranged defense upgrade, which we're going to get out of here, and that allows us to spend our gold. So even though it looks like we're floating gold, we're not in practice. We're not really. So +1 attack and +1 defense. We're making spearmen. We're always making villages and making spearmen and longbows as we can. And then, lo and behold, we're almost at 40 pop. So we're going to take this as our very arbitrary marker, just for the sakes of getting started with the game, to go and attack. So we're going to take them all in the group. We brought the scout there just for vision. And then we're going to go across the map. Now, exactly how I'm going across the map here, I don't read into this. This is just against AI. Your goal was to just go across and do a little bit of damage. And then once you're here is when you've got some choices to make. So I'm going to talk about those ever so briefly, and then just play out the rest of the game. So You're still making units behind this, but you're just rallying them to your base, and you're just going to use this forward group. Once this is big enough, you can take it across the map, but you don't want to just be trickling units. Here's the point where you're making a decision. Are you going to just do some pressure, and then are you going to age up to Castle Age, which you can do. In that case, you're going to want to put a few more guys on gold. You need 1200 food, 600 gold. Age up with the white tower, which is a keep landmark. Put it defensively in your base, and when that comes up, you can upgrade your units, your spears and your longbows, and then you can also make new units out of that white tower, namely knights, which can allow you to go finish the game. The other option is to try to kill them now. So you'll hear it be called all in. So a feudal age all in, we're just going to make as many units as we can and just commit to killing him. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to get this, which is what I'm doing in this game, Siege Engineering. This will allow your infantry, so your spearmen and your longbowmen, to make rams, and then we're going to use those rams to go and destroy his buildings and kill him outright. So, hitting play on this. In this one, we're not going to go Castle Age, we're going to go for this feudal all in. So we're going to keep making units as much as we can. We're going to make sure that when these guys are done with the sheep on food, they're not just standing there doing nothing. They're going to go on the berries. In this case, rams cost a lot of wood. They cost 200 wood each, so we're putting more onto wood. The exact numbers, don't worry, just feel it out. And then we're going to just doing a little bit of damage. You see knights, so the spearmen come and deal with that. Doing a little bit of macro, and then we're setting the second group across. Okay, cool. We're at the front of the base. We don't want to be caught in the back making the rams. Make rams. 3 is a good rule of thumb if you're going to try to really commit to the end. And then push. Making units. At this point, once you're really all in, you can rally your units across the map. But this is really showing nothing. It's just there to finish the game. Making rams in the space. At this point, game's over. Hey, why not, eh? And then boom, we're done. So that's basically just second video. We'll have a bit more explanation as to why we're doing that. And a little bit more depth about how to execute it, but that's the most basic part. So again, written description, we'll have the written build order. Otherwise, yeah, check out the second video if you're interested. But thanks for watching, and catch you next time. Bye bye.